one, we're going to talk about our first thoughts for building a Escalation League for our players, and some thinking around and behind it. As we are building our armies up, we quite feel we'd fancy doing an Escalation League because it would give us a chance to build as we go and letting us play at lots of different points values to get to know our armies. So the people that would be doing this in the proposed league would be Jez playing Eldar, Laurie playing Eldar, myself playing Dark Angels, Craig playing the Demons, Chris playing Necrons, so that's 5 of us, and maybe Pete, if he's started a new army in time, because he's lost the Tyranids that I gave him and painted for him. He's got a whole wolf fetish thing going on. He's one of these people with the whole wolf thing. These wolf people in real life. Fetish. People. Wolf. Possibly might try and roll some Space Wolves, but you know, because it's Games Workshop products and everything's expensive, you can't just say, "Take my money! Now I shall have an army. I now have an army." Because that's a lot of monies. It's uncertain whether he'd be joining us basically yet, whether he'd be starting an army yet. But then saying that, Chris's dad plays a vanilla Space Marines force as well, who is painted green. Funnily enough, they just happen to be green too, so that would be interesting. Maybe another Space Marine force involved. Yeah. So yeah, maybe 6. At least 5 of us. Maybe 6 if Pete gets involved. Maybe up to 7. Here's the thinking, right? Maybe even kick things off at like the 250 points games that you can have. Because in those ones, that's where you all go out and the units then break down into independent characters. So they can all just go off independently and do their thing. So you could have like, 5 tactical marines or whatever, and then they just go, "I'll go this way, you go this way, I'll go over here," and you're playing like a Necromunda game at that point. It sounds really cool, doesn't it? Small scale Warhammer 40k. It's like, quick, take to the building, pew pew pew. Oh, I got a cover save. Aha, blah blah blah. Roll and quick, get up their lines. Get up there where you can't get the cover save. And all those cool things that you get in like Necromunda. And you say, quick, run around the side and fire at him from there. He's got no cover save from that angle. I'll keep him pinned from here. Pew, pew, pew. Those small scale things really give you a different thing, don't they? It would be nice, I think, to start on that level, but also to have all the points, and then obviously build a combat patrol, 400 points, and then 500 point combat patrol, and then move up from there in scales. But it would be nice to have the points earned from winning, or whatever, be the same as the points earned at the top end scale. So that it would really give the same amount of respect to the small games. Yeah, that being able to play at small levels is just as important. You'd score the exact same amount of points. The other thing we are thinking about with it is what we should do about how well painted forces are. Because there are some leagues that just outright don't let you use things that aren't painted at all. Some, obviously, tournament type rules that say 3 colours up. And then there are other things where they say, okay, you can use it, but it's got to at least be undercoated. Or, you can use whatever, but you'll score extra points if they're painted. And if they're highlighted, you score extra points. And if they're shaded, you score extra points. And stuff like that. Now, what I'm personally a fan of is the idea of completely unpainted, so all black, all white, or all silver, or all grey plastic forces that haven't been painted, essentially, count as automatically destroyed by the end of the last turn. So basically, in objective holding games, which is what the majority of them actually are anyway, they'd automatically count as destroyed and not actually be able to be holding objective. So all they'd be able to do in their non-painted state would be trying to kill things to stop them being alive to actually claim objectives, because they too are going to die by the end of the game too, just automatically. The reason I think you should impose this is the following. Playing as I have against enemies that have just all silver, metal, glittering forces that aren't painted, I look at my opponents and I see that I've spent a lot of time painting, and I look at them and I can't tactically differentiate between the buggers. It's the same as like trying to play in fantasy. It's really bad in fantasy, for example, isn't it? Because you're just all like in big blocks and that. I remember playing against dwarves like it. And as a greenskin player, I'd be looking at that, and they're all just small, stunty things with beards. And I can't tell what's what. I mean, just about, oh, these ones have just got a little bit of thing they're holding up there, so actually they're hammerers. Oh, okay. But they still kind of look the same because they're just all black sprayed. And it all just blends. And he knew what they were, but, you know, you have to play them a lot of games to get to know ones in that state. Inherently what they are. If you're playing a game like that, sometimes you're trying to immerse, and you can't really properly immerse if you're playing against things that look like plastic and metal. You know, you obviously put colour on them to some extent to give them some personality, at least, so that they aren't just toys you're playing with anymore. You're not just moving around like those little army men, those green ones that you get in toy soldiers with their feet stuck to a base sort of thing. You know, the kind of things. You might as well just be pushing that around if you want them painted. Just collect a load of them and say, these are Imperial Guard. These are my Imperial Guard forces. Get some army men. And you know, I know that painting isn't necessarily for everyone, but we wouldn't be outright saying then, oh, you can't bring them. But we'd be saying, well, they do count as destroyed at the end. And I think that's fair enough, really. I think a nice painted force is pleasurable for your opponent too. And remember, when you play a game like this, be it Warhammer or just any sort of game like this at a table with people, you're taking part in a social contract to try and help each other have a good time. It's kind of the unspoken agreement. You know, I'll treat you with respect and fairness, and you'll do the same with me. We'll give each other a fair game without cheating, and may the best man win. Or lady, because a lot of you women out there are very good gamers too. Anyway, that's just the initial thoughts, and maybe it will come up in the end to 2,000 points plus or whatever. The one I'm really, really looking forward to playing, eventually getting into a lot, is City Fight. Because obviously that's how I've built my Dark Angels as well, with a lot of that sort of Terminator 2 landscape idea in focus, all like grey ground and crunching over skulls and just metal chunks of sheared off stuff and bits of broken masonry and tanks rumbling over them and crushing the dead flat into the upturned soil that rips up out of the ground and sends the grey debris everywhere and dust up into the air like a vapour. And then the silhouettes of troops can be seen coming through it, and they're suddenly Astartes, and they say, the Dark Angels are here! The Dark Angels have come! They've come to save us! And the Dark Angels think, no, we haven't. We haven't come to save you, because there's a reason we're called Dark Angels. We've come here to do something dark. Haven't we, bungled? Yes! So, that's just some ideas on Escalation Leagues. Have you ever played one? Have you ever tried one? How did it turn out for you? Did everyone have a good time? Each points you build have to remain, and then as you increase the points, they have to be added onto what you've already had. And then when you go up again, you add onto. You're not allowed to reconfigure. You're not allowed to build a new list. You only add on to the old list, each points increment. Now that's cool, because the stuff that you might have placed specially only for low levels, you have to take into account that it's still going to be hanging around at like 1750 points. Cool. Lots of things to think about, lots of tactical bits and bobs to think about. Leave a comment in the crotch below and let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you at the table.